Okay, so this part of the class is going to be the most important, all right? If you were to skip everything else and just do this one, it'll give you insights that will amaze you as far as building your business. If you've got an existing business, which most of you have, this is going to be the most important thing that you ever do for your business. I'm trying to not oversell it, okay, but this is the truth. Now, we're going to be doing a few technical things, and we're going to be doing a couple of things that involve a computer, all right, but this portion is all about people. So, I want to talk to you real quick. There are only two things that are important when it comes to making money, just two. And only one of them is actually that important. All right, so here it is. Number one, you need to have access to a thing of value. All right, you don't even have to own it. You just need to have access to something with a value to it. Okay, and the other thing is the ability to communicate with somebody that values it. Okay, so access to a thing of value and the ability to communicate with someone that values that thing. Does that make sense? Okay, now I'm going to take you back to 1989 when I was a college student. And I met a fellow in the halls there in Pikes Peak Community College. Okay, and he was pursuing a career as a counselor. He wanted to be a counselor. And later on, I bumped into him again, and he had gotten out of counseling. He enjoyed it, but he decided that okay, I'm starting with a family here, and I'm going to need to make more money. And so he began a custom homes building business, and now that business is a multi-million-dollar operation. He's very, very in demand, and doesn't even have to advertise. But folks come to him saying, "Hey, will you design our home? This is what we need. This is what we'd like to have it be like, and but we don't understand how to really design it and so forth. So we have these needs, but then what can you do for us?" Okay, and so Dave will design them a custom home, and it'll be a multi-million-dollar home, and he's doing very well. Okay, what I may have forgotten to mention is that when I met Dave, he was in a wheelchair because at the age of 19, he lost his temper with somebody messing with the traffic. He jumped out and banged on the window and confronted someone that had like cut him off in traffic or whatever. And the passenger of that car had a pistol and shot him in the throat. So David is still paralyzed. He's not had the use of his legs for 30 years. And he also has not had the use of one of his hands. And one of his hands he can use just his fingers to help operate his motorized wheelchair. Well, how does a person like that be a custom home builder? Well, easy. See, he's able to hire people. He's able to keep promises. He's able to look at and read blueprints, and he's able to interpret what's going on there and make suggestions and tell them to cross this out and put this in instead and all that. You see, even though he doesn't operate a shovel, he's not breaking ground, he's not swinging a hammer, right? He's able to have a multi-million-dollar business. Okay, so what has he got? He's got access to something valuable. It's what's inside here, right? And he's able to communicate. And so it's all about the flow of information, and this is every business. Every business, when you really break it down to its most basic level, it's all about access to something of value and communicating that value. So it's about controlling the full flow of information. Okay, now I'm going to ask you about, some of you are, my age. And so we remember before internet, okay? How did we figure out how to get the things that we needed before the internet? Well, we'd go to the Yellow Pages, okay? Or we would ask a friend. So, for example, I need a plumber, all right? So what do? I open up the Yellow Pages and I start looking through the ads. Usually I start at the top and I start calling, all right, and asking for rates, okay? The other thing that I might do is I might ask my neighbor. I say, hey, Fred, um, how is AAA plumbing? Is that a good one? I know that you had those guys recently, so and that's the idea. Okay, so it's about word of mouth, and it's about this kind of advertising where you're searching for them. Okay, and it could go either way. It could be, okay, I'm going to look up in the Yellow Pages, and then after I find a place, then I'll ask around, say, hey, what do you think about AAA? Okay, or you might ask the friend, all right, and the friend says, well, you don't need AAA, you need, you need 1A plumbing. That's who to call. All right, and so you'd ask the friend first, and then you go to the black pages, or the white and black pages, and still that's where you go to find their phone number. All right, so again, we're just talking about controlling the information flow. But nowadays, okay, what is the Yellow Pages? It's Google, right? And how do we talk to our friends? A lot of us by way of social media. So now it's not so much word of mouth, it's word of mouse. Huh? Okay, but in the Yellow Pages days, hacking was this. Hacking was, okay, the Yellow Pages is organized alphabetically, so I want to be as close to the front as possible when somebody starts going down the line and calling. So I want to be a plumber, right? And then later on, somebody says, hey, maybe instead of a plumber, it should be a double A plumber, right? And then finally, triple A plumber, and they started to say, okay, that's enough. And then some bright person came across the idea that, hey, alphabetically, numerals go before letters. So how about 1A plumbing? Okay, and so so hacking was being employed even back then. What we want to do is we want to make it so that we have an unfair advantage, and that unfair advantage, when somebody goes and looks for the type of keyword that means your business, you're going to come up. All right, you're going to come up first. Okay, and the best way to do that is to discover keywords. Okay, keywords, and what that's going to be about is, for example, if I was to type in pet store, I'll get a whole bunch of pet supply and pet stores that are near me. But if I was to type in buy a dog, I might have completely different listings. And so understanding what's in the mind of a person that is a buyer is the best way to become a big fish in a small pond. The small pond, right? The small pond is the pool of people that would be searching for exactly what you need, as far as if you were looking for something to buy right now. Okay, we're going to call this buyer intent keywords. And how do we find those keywords? Well, not guessing. Here's what we do. We do something called the customer avatar. And if we understand what's in the avatar's mind, right, we're going to be able to control the flow of information. Now, when I say avatar, it's not that blue-skinned movie, okay, Dances with Smurfs or whatever. We're not talking about that movie. We're not talking about Avatar that way. We mean a representative of your ideal client. Your ideal, I call it the client crush. All right, so you probably know, if you're in business already, you probably know that some customers are not created equal to others. And What I'm going to ask you to do is to get in the head of the kind of customer that you want to serve. Find at least three, and take them out. And that's taking a paying customer out. Don't take your brother-in-law and say, hey, would you, if you were looking out for my service, how would you search for it? No, find somebody that's actually bought from you. And I've got a 25-word questionnaire. I'm going to ask you to actually take the time and sit with a paying client, a paying customer, and pick their brain. And they'll actually be very flattered and very helpful if you approach this the right way. Tell them, hey, look, you are my favorite customer. And you can have 3 or 4 favorite customers. But you say, you're my favorite customer, and I want to figure out how to find more of you. And would you be open to having a cup of coffee with me and spending about 30-45 minutes with me, just trying to get into the head of people that are as smart as you, right? And you got to use a little bit of humor, a little bit of charm. But the idea is when we get to those guys, okay, we're going to not just find out about all of their buying triggers and their keywords, but we're also going to understand how to speak to them. Okay, not just the words, but the copy afterwards on your websites. Okay, so this is your assignment, and it's a doozy, and I'm going to give you a week to complete it. We need to get with at least 3 of your customer crush. These have to be paying customers. The ones that pay on time, the ones that don't dicker about price, the ones that recommend you to their friends, the one that makes helpful suggestions but doesn't try to make you run the business their way, right? But you know who I'm talking about. Let's take them to dinner or to lunch or to coffee, and let's get inside of their heads. You're going to want to look into the resource barn and get your customer avatar sheet. The abbreviation is CASH. All right, your customer avatar sheet. Download that, 3 copies, and get with actual humans, and let's get to work. Okay, we'll see you out there. Happy hacking.